Is $2.2 million enough? That's the exact question that I had some clients ask me recently. So if you've been saving and investing your whole life and you're wondering if you have enough to retire, I have a great case study today and I'm going to share it with you and you're going to love this video. So stay tuned for the whole thing. Hey, I'm Adam Olson and I'm here to help you live your best retirement today. In today's episode, I'm going to tell you how I help some clients transition into partial retirement and I help them relieve a lot of stress along the way. So let's get started in this video right now. I want to start you off with some basic client info, So let's call these clients Joe and Sue. So Sue was 58 and Joe was 61. And they had about $2.2 million in retirement assets. They had no debt, and their income need, what they needed to get along, was about $5,000 a month. So financially, they were in a great spot. They were still working, they had no debt, and their income need was about $5,000 a month, which is easily doable for them with $2.2 million of assets. I'm going to add to this that each client, if they waited till their full retirement age, their Social Security benefit was going to be over $2,800 a month. So if both clients waited till their full retirement age, 60s, late 60s, they could have gotten an additional $2,800 per person a month in Social Security. Now, these particular clients came in and they had an issue. They had all of this money and they wanted to think about retiring, but they really weren't sure if they were able to. So they wanted to slow down and get more free time to spend time with family and to spend time doing their hobbies, the things that they truly wanted to do. And there was this common theme that kept popping up with the clients is that Sue was still working just to get the benefits. She mentioned that multiple times in our conversations that they were really worried about Sue losing her health insurance if they retired. So the major pain point that they had was losing health insurance, which is an important thing. So you need to have health insurance even at retirement time, and they were really stressed about losing her group insurance. So Joe was already part-time, working about 25 hours a week, so he didn't have access to retirement benefits. Now, the important thing is that they still wanted to work. They liked their jobs, they enjoyed their jobs. They said they would feel bad for leaving their fellow employees behind if they quit work altogether and they had to shift the workload. Plus, they were honestly like, at our ages, we think we'd be bored if we fully retired. But Sue did want to slow down. She did mention us several times, in addition, that the workload was getting to be a little too much for her to handle at this point in time. And so they went from this feeling that, hey, we have to work just for the health insurance. Once we did the financial plan for them, the retirement plan for them, their eyes were opened up wide because we helped them show them a way that they could both shift to part-time work, lose the health insurance, and actually be money ahead. So just let's dig into this a little bit more before we talk about the problem. So they had more than enough money saved for retirement. They had great Social Security benefits, and they still wanted to work part-time. But the main problem they did is they wanted to shift Sue to part-time and lose health insurance. There's a couple things that we looked at for these clients. First, we looked at a thing called their adjusted gross income. So we looked at the Affordable Care Act health insurance, also known as Obamacare. We looked at that health insurance the first thing for them. And with their income of about $60,000 per year, if they both were part-time, the Affordable Care Act health insurance was under $150 a month for them. Now, the work insurance was actually costing her about $550 per paycheck. So she actually saved money on her insurance premiums for her and her husband by going to part-time work. Now, the deductible on the Affordable Care Act insurance was a little bit higher, but that's because we selected a plan that had a little bit higher deductible so they could get access to the health savings account. And remember, I've talked about this before in past videos, but a health savings account is a triple tax benefit. It's pre-tax money going in, it grows tax-free, and as long as you take it out for the right things, it's tax-free at distribution time. And we plan to use that HSA account beefed up dollars to pay the client's Medicare Part B premium when they turn 65, because they're not going to take Social Security until several years later. So it's a great tax strategy for them too, that we're saving up pre-tax dollars. Once they turn 65, we'll use that HSA to pay their Medicare Part B premiums, paying those Part B premiums with pre-tax dollars. Huge win for these clients. Plus, they had some extra cash on hand that they were actually able to fully fund these health savings account contributions for the next 3 years with the cash on hand that they have. Okay, so before I close up this case study and walk you through what we did for them, The clients also needed some investment management help. They had a lot of their assets were aggressive, which has turned out really well for them over the past decade. But the closer we get to that distribution time frame, 4 years, we needed to get some money that was more conservative. So we helped them clean up a couple old brokerage accounts, and then we made some of their retirement assets more conservative, prepping for distributions in 4 years when they plan to retire once they both get on Medicare. So let's dig into this. The Affordable Care Act in this case study was a bridge for clients to get from their pre-60s and 60 to Medicare age. Health insurance was a major concern for these people, and so we addressed it with Affordable Care Act health insurance. So let's talk first about some challenges about securing health insurance before you're eligible for Medicare at 65. So in these clients' mind, they thought there is no options for me that are affordable. Everything out there is crazy expensive, or I won't qualify for it. Well, that's not true. You need to have health insurance before you get on Medicare, but the Affordable Care Act is a great thing for people to look at. In addition to that, some people think, hey, I'm not even going to get health insurance because I can't afford it if it's too costly. Well, if you have health issues and you have medical bills, you're going to have massive medical bills due if you don't have health insurance before you get on Medicare. So please get something. So health insurance, again, I'm going to iterate it again. And it is very important that you get this before you get on Medicare. And there's two main things that you can look at. The first one I talked about briefly was the Affordable Care Act. And the second thing is COBRA. So what is COBRA? Well, essentially COBRA is continuation of your employer's health insurance plan. So if you work for an employer that has over 20 full-time employees, you can take the health insurance with you if you leave employment. And we do this quite often for clients as well. So say it's July, August, or September, and you've already met your deductible at your group health insurance and you're going to retire and you're pre-65. Well, it may be a good idea for you to just continue out COBRA for the whole year because your deductible carries over with COBRA. So that's very important to understand, is that your deductible carries over most times with COBRA. But the downside to COBRA, again, the continuation of your employer coverage, is you're going to pay full price for the health insurance cost. So COBRA can be very expensive if you need to take it with you. But if you're a very, very high income earner, or if you've already met your deductible, it may be an option for you to consider. Again, if your employer has over 20 full-time employees, you'll be eligible for it. And that COBRA can last for anywhere from 18 to 36 months, depending on your particular situation. And do know as well that you have 60 days from your last date of employment, last day of coverage, to elect COBRA. So you can actually go back in time and have COBRA start, which is a pretty neat tool that a lot of people need to use and understand. So these particular clients that I worked with, they had a lower income that worked for the Affordable Care Act. But if you're retiring and your income's still going to be $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, you may want to look at COBRA because those premiums are not income-based, and it may be a tool that you can utilize. I want to dig into a little bit more right now about the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, the health insurance marketplace. It's really all the same thing. Essentially how this works is this. The premiums are all age-based, but you can get deductions for those premiums called credits based upon what your income is going to be. So these particular clients, if their income was $60,000, the premiums were under $150 a month. But if their premiums were $80,000 or $100,000, those premiums would be higher. So make sure that when you're working on these Affordable Care Act plans and quotes, you're looking at multiple different quotes of your income depending on what it's going to be, and you're also looking at multiple different coverage options so you can determine what's best for you. Remember, in the case study, we used an HSA plan, which allows pre-tax dollars to come in and they're tax-free going out. And we plan to use that for the client's Medicare Part B premiums that start when they turn 65. In essence, we're paying the Medicare premiums with pre-tax dollars. So what do you need to consider when you're comparing COBRA and Affordable Care Act coverage? Well, first off, you got to compare premiums. What is the cost of the insurance? What is the deductible? What is the network? And what is my out-of-pocket coverage limits? So when you're comparing COBRA to Affordable Care Act health insurance for early retirees, look at premiums, deductibles, network coverage, and out-of-pocket maximums. That will help you determine which strategy is going to be best for you. And do know that the Affordable Care Act health insurance marketplace Obamacare plans are based on your adjusted gross income. So what does that mean? Well, you need to know that modified adjusted gross income is what helps you determine what your subsidy is. So you can do things to keep that income down, such as an HSA or a pre-tax IRA. So you can use those things to keep your income down, which is going to be essential to keeping the premiums down for those Affordable Care Act plans. And this can be done up until the age of 65. Once you turn 65, you're going to get on Medicare. Medicare needs to be applied for about 3 months before you turn 65. That way you get everything in place for time. When you turn 65, the first of the month, in the month that you turn 65, is when your Medicare is going to start. And then you'll get a supplement and a drug plan or an Advantage plan to go with it. And you'll be set for the rest of your life with Medicare coverage. It's the one nice thing about turning 65 is that you get access to Medicare. And I do want to add too that when you're making this transition from an employer benefits plan, looking at COBRA, looking at Affordable Care Act health insurance, that you should be working with an insurance broker who can show you multiple companies, multiple options, and help you determine what's best for you. So let's do a little recap of the case design. So again, these clients came in, they were 58 and 61. So Joe and Sue, 58, 61, they had plenty of money to retire. Really, the least of their concerns is having enough money to retire. What we did for them is we made some of their money conservatively invested so that that's the first money that we're going to spend in retirement. And then we helped them go part-time in Sue's work, which allowed them to get an Affordable Care Act health insurance plan. Again, they saved on the premiums. So they were paying less on the Affordable Care Act than they were on the group health plan. In addition to that, it allowed them to contribute to an HSA plan. The HSA plan for these clients was pre-tax. So they were able to put thousands of dollars pre-tax into an HSA per year that they're going to beef up by the time Joe turns 65 in 4 years. They're going to be able to fully fund his Medicare Part B premiums until he turns on his Social Security and they start coming out of Social Security. So that was a great tax benefit that we showed them as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video about looking at what health insurance is available to you if you're going to retire early. And again, you're going to look at the Affordable Care Act and you're going to look at COBRA. Those are the main two things that you need to be looking at. And if you've saved up enough money that you don't need workplace health insurance anymore, there are options available to you. So don't feel that you just have to work to get health insurance. It's not that way anymore. There are options out there for you to consider. So I hope you enjoyed this video about looking at health insurance options pre-65. I hope you enjoyed the case study as well. If that shed light on your information in your situation, I hope it was extremely helpful to you. If you would, subscribe and leave me a comment to let me know what you think. Thanks for listening and stay tuned for more. This podcast is for educational purposes only and may include references to concepts that have legal and/or tax implications. It's not to be construed as legal or tax advice. Such information or opinions is subject to change without notice and is not intended to use as an offer or solicitation with respect to the purchase or sale of any security, insurance products, or offer of individual investment advice. Any strategies discussed may not be suitable for everyone. Mutual of Omaha Investor Services, Inc. does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your appropriate professional regarding your personal situation prior to making any financial decisions. Securities and advisory services offered through Mutual of Omaha Investor Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Riser Insurance is not affiliated with Mutual of Omaha Investor Services. Investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Diversification does not guarantee a profit or protection lost against loss in a declining market. Purchase of life insurance is subject to meeting underwriting requirements. There is no guarantee of an individual will be insured. Annuities are long-term investments designed for retirement purposes. Withdrawals of taxable amounts are subject to income tax, and if taken prior to 59.5, a 10% federal penalty tax may apply. Guarantees are backed by the claims paying ability of the issuer and are subject to their terms and conditions.